roast breadfruit, but with something simmering on the inside. You see breadfruit trees all over Jamaica. They're super versatile, but most people love that dense starchy goodness you get from roasting them. Usually served with ackee and saltfish, stewed chicken, or sliced up and fried with some thin mackerel. All of that is delicious and I'll link those videos below, but today I'm trying something different. For this recipe, I got a good mature breadfruit. I made sure it was unripe. Ripe breadfruit gets too soft and won't hold its shape, which makes it harder to stuff. No, this one's kinda beat up. Breadfruit trees can grow really tall, so sometimes you can't safely climb or pick them. It's a bit battered, but still a perfectly good breadfruit to roast. That said, if I saw this at the market, I wouldn't buy it. A little cooking oil on your surfaces help prevent the breadfruit from leaving stains. I'm popping out the stem and slicing off the bottom so it can stand upright. That will make things easier when it's time to prep, especially later on. Next, I'm going to slowly roast this on the stove. I don't want it heavily charred, so I'll be turning it often to roast it nice and slow. I'm also not going to char the bottom end. I'm saving that part for later. A good sign that it's done is when you see steam coming out from either the stem or that cut bottom. Once I see that, I'll kill the heat and let it cool. It holds its shape way better when it's completely cool, and it's much easier to handle. While we wait on that, we can prep the filling. These are salted mackerel, a staple in Jamaican cuisine. It has deep cultural roots, but it was once seen as poor man's food. These days though, it's more of a premium item. It costs even more than chicken now. Honestly, not much is considered poor man's food anymore. Before we can use the mackerel, we need to remove the salt. What I like to do first is rinse off that briny liquid a couple times, then I'll add fresh water and boil it. That scotch bonnet and thyme probably don't add much flavor, but I like the ritual of adding them anyway. I'm cooking this up with some fresh vegetables, so while the mackerel is desalting, we can do all the prepping. Salted mackerel can be really salty, so sometimes you'll need to throw off that boiling water and top it up with fresh water. Do that as many times as it takes to bring the saltiness down to a level that you can enjoy. Once it's cooked, rinse it with cold water and then we can clean it up. That boiled mackerel skin has a nasty texture, so I'm making sure to remove that. Then I'm going to take out the bones and anything else that's not edible or just not palatable. Usually the mackerel is flaked much smaller, but it will break up more later, so this is fine for now. Salt mackerel has a firmer, meatier bite than fresh mackerel. The salt cure also changes the flavor completely. It's way more savoury, and speaking of savoury, it's clear now that I'm making rundown, and we can't have rundown without some fresh coconut milk. Well, technically you can, but fresh coconut milk is so much better. I'll link a video below showing you how to prep it. I'm just blending the coconut with a bit of water, then straining it. At its core, rundown is just coconut milk simmered down into a thick, rich, flavorful sauce. This dish isn't unique to Jamaica. Grenada has Isle and you'll find similar versions all over the world. Simmering anything in coconut milk is delicious, so it makes sense that a lot of cultures do it. To get some good flavor into this rundown, I'm starting by sauteing some aromatics. First, I need a splash of oil, about a dozen dried pimento, also called allspice, a tablespoon of chopped garlic, 2 stalks of chopped scallion. I don't want that to burn, so I'm giving it a quick stir. A sprig of fresh thyme, you already know. 1 sliced onion, I'm using about half now and saving the rest for later. I want just a bit of scotch bonnet, just a thin slice, no seeds. We had a couple months without much rain recently, and the upside of that is that scotch bonnet gets way more flavorful. The downside, they get unbearably hot. These ones are basically on steroids, so I'm using way less than usual. Now I'm just sauteing this until it starts to brown and get nice and fragrant. Next, I've got about 3 diced plum tomatoes. I'm adding about half for now. I ended up finishing the recipe without using the rest, but it could take all of it. Tomatoes are a key ingredient in rundown. They pair really well with fish and bring out the flavor of coconut. Now just saute everything together. I'm cooking off the excess water from the tomatoes to concentrate the flavor. Then I'm going in with about 4 cups of coconut milk. That's a little extra, but I want this rundown to be nice and juicy. I'm leaving it on medium low to simmer, thicken up and get more flavorful. It doesn't need much attention, so I'll cover that and check back in on the breadfruit. That's totally cooled now. It's also firmed up a bit. I'm using some steel wool to scrub off the excess charring. You could cook this in the oven to avoid this step, but that char is part of the charm of roast breadfruit. It adds flavor, and maybe it's just me, but the texture is way better too. I don't mind a little extra cleanup if it means I get a better end product. Once I've removed all the extra charring, I'm cutting off the top. We need to get rid of the heart. I wouldn't eat that. A spoon makes light work of this step. I'm removing the heart first, then scooping out a bit more of the breadfruit. I'm trying to leave about an inch to an inch and a half all around on the inside. I guess I got a little too thin at the bottom, but this should still be good. Make sure to save that scooped out breadfruit. It's still really good. I also made a little lid using the top we cut off, but I think it's now time to check in on the rundown. That's reducing nicely. It gets thicker and oilier the more it simmers down. At this point we can give it a taste test just to see how we're doing with flavors. That tastes great. It's kinda fresh still, but the salt mackerel is gonna balance that out. The coconut is reduced to the perfect level, so now is a great time to add the mackerel. I'm also adding the half onion we saved earlier, a bit of sliced sweet pepper and about half a tablespoon of chopped garlic. These ingredients add a fresh layer of flavor. I'm just going to let this simmer for a few minutes. The final ingredient I'm adding to this is okra. That's about 6 of them sliced. I added the okra this late because I like it a bit crunchy without all the extra slime. But hey, most Jamaicans love that okra slime. And that's really it for the rundown. Next I'm gonna stuff the breadfruit with it and finish cooking it inside the breadfruit. That's why I undercooked the bottom of the breadfruit earlier. It can take a little more char now without burning too much. So the last time I made saltfish rundown on this channel, a lot of viewers were in the comments saying I couldn't cook, that I didn't know how to make rundown, and what I made wasn't a true representation of Jamaican cuisine. Who knows, maybe they were right. The coconut I used was kinda green, but that was still the best rundown I've ever had. I wish some of the viewers told me how they made it so I could represent better. Let me know down in the comments how you cook your rundown. I always love hearing the different ways we cook food. That looks really good. I'm just gonna close it with the cover I made and keep that on low heat. It should start to simmer after a few minutes. The breadfruit will heat back up and take on all that rich, delicious rundown flavor. And those okra will be cooked to perfection. That smells incredible. That base we gave the breadfruit makes placing it on a flat surface so much easier. I love that creamy custardy consistency it has. You can smell that sweet coconut with all those spices. I'm just gonna dig in. Yes man, that is it. This is so good. Roast breadfruit is amazing with rundown, but stuffing it and cooking it on the inside takes it to a whole new level. Hey, I'm Nick and this was delicious. Big shout out to our patrons and thank you for watching. Check out this next video right here for another banger recipe. Catch you in the next one.